We're now on Daf Mem Ches Amid Beis, and since we already determined that Aviv Imo is not coming to be matir other mesim, is Hamat Talmud Lama, so why do I need the pasuk Aviv Imo in the parsha of Tuma with regard to a Nazir? So this is source for a Nazir being permitted to be metame for a mes mitzvah. So now the Brisa says, I'm going to prove to you that this redundancy of Imo is coming to be matir mes mitzvah. Ajlo Yomar, if the pasuk in Nazir did not tell me explicitly that a Nazir is enjoined from bimatame li of limo, yeshli, I would say bedid, that I could certainly derive from what we call binyanav that a Nazir is not allowed to be bimatame li of limo. Nemru klolos b'kohen gadol v'nemru klolos b'nazir. So we have a general pasuk that's called klolos in Kohen Gadol, and a parallel one in Nazir. In Kohen Gadol, it says in Emor, "V'al kol nafshos meis lo yavo," and we find the klolos in Nazir in the parsha of Nazir. So it says al nefesh meis lo yavo. Not sure why in the case of Kohen Gadol it says nefashos in plural, and in Nazir it says nefesh. That I don't know. In any event, in Kohen Gadol and also in Nazir, the Torah writes this klal that includes all Mason and enjoins both the Kohen Gadol and the Nazir, each in its own pasuk, from being metame le'eni mes, for any mes. Is ma kol amuros beKohen Gadol li'aviv metame le'mes mitzvah av kol amuros ben Nazir li'aviv eino metame avol metame le'mes mitzvah. So once we've derived in the case of Kohen Gadol that despite the klolos of al kol nefashos mes lo yavo, nevertheless the Torah specifies aviv, and that's telling me that that he's allowed to be metame to what? To a mes mitzvah, is the same thing applies. By Nazir, we have the klolos of al nefesh mes lo yavo, then the Torah goes ahead and specifies aviv imo. Must be telling me that there's a heter like in Kohen Gadol in the case of Nazir to be metame for a mes mitzvah. Sha'af klos hamuris ben Nazir li'aviv metame lemes mitzvah. Now the Brisa kind of argues from a different perspective. Or klach l'derech, so maybe we can use a different binyan av. Nemru klos b'kohen hejot. In the case of kohen hejot, in Parshas Emor, the Torah says l'nefesh lo yitame v'yama. Sounds like it's all inclusive. No nefashos will permit the kohen hejot to be mitame. Nemru klos b'nazir, as we saw before, kol nefesh yol yavo. Is ma klos hamuris b'kohen hejot mitame liyoviv, af klos hamuris b'nazir mitame liyoviv. And now we have a havamina that a nazir, like a kohen hejot, because in both cases of klolos, would be allowed to be mitame liyoviv. Talmud lo liyoviv lo yitamo. So now we need the pasuk liyoviv liimo to enjoy the nazir from being mitame or lemes mitzvah mitame. And there's a stira him in Eubei here in this line in this brisa. He's telling you that I need liyoviv liimo because otherwise I might derive a conclusion to the opposite conclusion from a comparison to Kohen Hejot. Now he's telling me no, liyoviv liimo is redundant to teach me that he's allowed to be mitame lemes mitzvah. Makes no sense. So Gemara immediately jumps on this. If you just finished telling me that we would derive from Kohen Hejot that the Nazir is mitame liyoviv, so don't turn around and tell me that the word liyoviv is redundant and I use it to derive the conclusion that he's mitame lemes mitzvah. Ella, says the Gemara, li'aviv lomar she'ena mitami li'aviv. You're right. I need the word li'aviv, because otherwise I would have derived from Kohen Hedjod that a Nazir is mitami li'aviv. But there's an extra word in the pasuk says li'achiv. So let's go back to the pasuk for a second. It says li'aviv li'ima li'achiv la'chosa li'yitamalem b'mosom ki nezer l'kav al rosha. So I might need li'aviv, but why do I need li'achiv? And presumably, if he's not mitami li'aviv, then he's not mitami to any of his krovim. So why did the Torah have to specify li'achiv? And the answer is li'achiv and mitami l'mes mitzvah. Ule'imo. And why do I need the pasuk le'imo? If he's not mitami li'aviv, he's not mitami le'imo. Is Gzera Shavak and Rebbe, now I need the heter for the Nazir to permit him to be mitami for mitzvah and azah. Yeah, but what about lachoso? Oh, lachoso. This is already a whole sugya. Moira v'raboisa. Yeah. And we're starting a whole new sugya now. And this has to do with comparing mitzvos to mes mitzvah. When you have a conflict between mes mitzvah and a mitzvah. And that mitzvah might be a chiv kares. There are only two mitzvahs where there's a chiv kares. And that's Pesach and Milah. Look at the Sanya, we learned to the Bryce of the Sanya. Lachoso matamid lomar. Why do we need the pasuk lachoso? It's completely superfluous. It's the 14th of Nisan. He's on his way to Shechta Korban Pesach. Or alternatively, the level has been no. And he can only fulfill that special mitzvah milas b'no on the 8th day of the child's birth. Shamash Ameislo Mes. Now one of his relatives never gestorben. Yachol Yitami. Now if he's going to be mitami by being osik b'kfura of his relative, then he won't be able to be makiv the korban pesach b'tuma, and there's not enough hours in the day to be mal his son on the 8th day. Amrit lo yitama. I might think in this case, let him put aside the mitzvah of mes mitzvah for the sake of the great mitzvah of korban pesach, which is a chiv kares, and milah, which is a chiv kares. Well, actually, that's a little complicated here, because milah is a chiv kares on the person himself who needs milah, not on the father. But anyway, let's just see. Af shekares yesh rak b'mi shalomolas atzmo. Okay, so that puts milah on a separate level because it's shaykh to have kares for milah. It's therefore the mitzvah of milah and the mitzvah of korban pesach should trump the mitzvah of mes mitzvah. Is yachalo yitame lemes mitzvah? I might think that in this case, for the sake of korban pesach or milah, he should ignore the mes mitzvah. Talmud lo malachos lachosu diedem etame halabes mitzvah etame, and the chiddush of the mes mitzvah etame from achoso is even in a case where we'll have to forfeit a mitzvah as great as korban pesach or as milah. So all this is Rabbi Yishmael. So again, li'aviv in the Parsha of Nazir teaches me mes mitzvah. And Le'imo teaches me the Gzeir Shav of Rebbe to be matir, tumas, nitzor, and saras. And Lachoso is teaching me that the mitzvah of mes mitzvah trumps even the mitzvahs as great as Pesach and Milah. And that's called Lachoso, hu de lo metame, ha lo mes mitzvah metame. Ad kan, Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva Omer, nefashos in the pasuk in Nazir, right? It says nefashos. Kol yemei yizaro Hashem al nefesh meslo yavo. Elu harachokim. Okay, fine. So a Nazir is enjoined from contracting tumah from a rachel. But then the Torah says nefesh meis. Why do you have to say nefesh meis? We had said nefesh meis has to do with behema, but Rabbi Akiva is saying that meis, the word mes here, which is totally superfluous, is elu akrovim, is teaching me that a Nazir is enjoined from being metami lekrovim. But then it says li'av v'li'imo. Is li'av v'imo ena metami, av metami l'mes mitzvah. Now, what do we do at li'achiv? The funny thing is, I don't see where. One second. Oh, right. So again, what I had put aside for a moment in my mind was that Rabbi Shmuel, in the early part of this brisa, he needed li'aviv because we could have derived from Kohen Hedja that just like Kohen Hedja is allowed to be mitame likrovov, so to a Nazir. So for that, I need li'aviv to prohibit that. And then I needed li'achiv to be matir mes mitzvah, and li'imo for the Gzeir Shav of Rebbe. Then I had li'achoso, and that's going to teach me the case of Korban Pesach and what? And Milah. Now Rabbi Akiva says that li'aviv ule'imo eno metame, ava metame lemes mitzvah. And if that be the case, then we're a little bit stuck here in Rabbi Akiva because Rabbi Shmuel had derived from li'achiv that he's metame lemes mitzvah. But Rabbi Akiva already derived from li'av li'imo is metame lemes mitzvah. So what's li'achiv? Shem haya kohen gadol v'hu nazir. If you combine two kedushas in one, get two for the price of one. And therefore, you kohen gadol v'hu nazir. It's the achiv and metame lemes mitzvah. I need a special chiddush, says Rabbi Akiva, that you metame lemes mitzvah when you have a double kiddush, both nazir and kohen gadol. And what about lachoso? Okay, lachoso, we're going to use the same way that Rabbi Shmuel used Rabbi Choso Sanya, hayaholech l'shchonos pischal of mispano, and so forth and so on. And he's metame lemes mitzvah, even forfeiting the great mitzvahs of Pesach and Milah. Will Rabbi Akiva Gzeir Shav the Rebbe Minolan? Well, now we're left with one minus here, because according to Rabbi Yishmael, we use li'imo for the Gzeir Shav. And it seems that Rabbi Akiva, for some reason, which I don't know why, needs Li'imo together with Li'aviv to be Mater Mes Mitzvah. Now, Li'imo is taken up according to Rabbi Akiva, whereas according to Rebbe, we needed Li'imo for Gzeira Shava, that a Kohen Gadol is allowed to be mitami to the mitzorah and Zav, like a Nazir. And Rabbi Akiva used the words li'av li'imo to darshan a het of tumas mes mitzvah. Amalachar, Rabbi Akiva responds, came on the Yomimah. He's talking about himself in third person. She'im haya Kohen Gadol ben Nazir. If he had both kedushos overlap, he used both the Kohen Gadol and a Nazir. And we derive from Liachiv that even in such a case, Liachiv in time lemes mitzvah is Mali Kohen Gadol lechudei Mali Nazir Kohen Gadol. I don't need an extra pasuk in Kohen Gadol to derive a heter mes mitzvah, because guess what? We just derived a heter for mes mitzvah when it's both a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir. So Kohen Gadol without Nazir for sure would be mutter for mes mitzvah. He writes here, Ma'avdel imu Kohen Gadol lechud, oshu Kohen Gadol v'gam Nazir. Imkshu Nazir v'Kohen Gadol hutalo leitami mes mitzvah kol shkein shehutalo imkshu Kohen Gadol levad. So now we have two words, li'aviv, li'imo, in the pasha of Kohen Gadol, which are redundant. And I'm going to use that for the Gzeira Shava, li'imo, Kohen Gadol, Nazir. And that's going to teach me the halach of Rebbe that there's a het to tumah in the case of mitzorah and zah. And that's because we have the word imo in the Pasha Kohen Gadol, which is redundant. So we have the Gzeira Shava, mufnes of li'imo li'imo. Fekti Gemara Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol v'Nazir minolo. What about Rabbi Shmuel? He needed that pasuk to derive the Gzeira Shava, and once he uses li'imo for the Gzeira Shava, then we don't have that extra pasuk of liachiv to teach me mes mitzvah in a double-barreled kedusha. It's therefore Kohen Gadol v'Nazir minole. When it says this, Kevin the Shor Rachmon Echad Gabi Lav Gabi mes mitzvah Mali Chad Lav Mali Trei Lav. Apparently, Rabbi Shmuel doesn't see it as a double kedusha, but as two lavin. And once the Torah was matir one lav, the Torah would be matir two lav, and all this for the sake of mes mitzvah. I mean, that needs a lot of work. Fekti Gemara Choso Lomali. Why did the Torah have to write Lachoso? And we said that it comes to teach you that if he's on his way to Shechtas Pesach or to be Malas Beno, he's allowed to what? To be mitami for the sake of a mes mitzvah. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, the Iser of Tumah that was trumped by mes mitzvah applies even to a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir, even though the two lavim, then certainly it should override the Iser Tumah, even in the case that'll be batil for the mitzvahs of Pesach and Milah. I'm not sure why the Gemara has such a havamim. I'll read to you what he says here in the note. He says, "Kishem sheim lechalik ben shnei lavim, lelav echad hu adid sheim lechalik ben bitul mitzasei sheish bo kares liaveris lav." I don't know why. I mean, we're not talking about a regular lav here. We're talking about a chiv kares. And again, this is according to Rabbi Shmuel. According to Rabbi Akiva, we have a special limud, a drasha of li'achiv, to teach me a heter of tumas mes in a case where there are two lavim, where there's both a kedushas kohen gadol and a kedushas nazir, which is a kedusha chamura. I mean, Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold for this far. Mali chad lav, mali trei lav. So he needs the drasha of achosa. In a case where he's holy lishchot es pischol of spro, and this pasuk of lachos is going to teach me that he's nitma. He does contract tumas mes for the sake of a mes mitzvah, and even if there's the chumras kares, but Rabbi Shmuel, who holds that there's no difference between one lav and another, the Gemara thinks that what are we going to derive from achos? And Gemara answers, I would have thought ki shara rachman al mitzvah. That's only Nazir Kohen the Isurei Lavi who have a milu pesach. The kares, now here he adds mitzvah say shechayim le kares, is there's a havamina shel yitvel mes mitzvah. All right, you can be docher the lavim of kahuna gidola and of Nazir, but to override a mitzvah sheyesh bachiv kares is, how do I know such a thing? Kamash malan. That's why the Torah to add the word lachoso, that even in the case of Pesach Umilo Shem Chamurim, it's a chiv kares. Nevertheless, it's trumped for the sake of a mes mitzvah. And this leads us to Daf Mem Tes, where the Gemara is going to ask a kasha on the drasha of Rabbi Akiva and Mitzvah Shem. We will pick that up, B'li Neder, tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a great day.